Welcome to Recalculating Small Business. Like its award-winning book, Recalculating is dedicated to small business in America. Your hosts are Don Mazzella and Dan Perkins. Don Mazzella is the editor-in-chief of the Small Business Digest. Dan Perkins is a registered investment advisor with 43 years' experience in managing money.
Dan Perkins here, your co-host, along with Don Mazzella of Recalculating for Small Business. Our radio program is dedicated to you, helping the small business owners increase their profits. We draw our name from Recalculating, voted the best small business book of 2017 by the Independent Press. In this book, it features ways to grow your small business. Now, here's Don Mazzella.
Avantas' Jackie Larson is here to provide insights into staffing and predictive analytics and workforce automation. That's a big mouthful, but I know from past experience that Jackie really makes it very understandable. Certainly, to me, she does. Jackie, welcome to the program.
Thanks so much, Don. I appreciate you having me on today.
Well, we appreciate having you. Jackie, before we go further, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, you bet. I am a native of Omaha, Nebraska, where Avantas was founded and is currently headquartered. I've spent the last 20 years or so in healthcare. But I have to tell you, Don, the last 10 years for me, it's really been the most rewarding based on the work we do at Avantas. Just in a nutshell, if I could, our aim is to improve the patient's experience by making sure the clinicians can be freed up from the administrative burden that often comes from scheduling, staffing, recruitment. We want them to do their best work, which, as you know, it's delivering quality patient care. It's so important.
Will you spell out your website for our audience?
Yes, you bet. It's www.avantas, it's A, V as in Victor, A, N as in Nancy, T as in Tom, A, S as in Sam.com. So www.avantas.com.
Okay, now tell us what you're doing, and workforce automation, staffing, analytics, etc.
Yeah, I sure can. So a little bit about Avantas. 20 years ago, Avantas was born out of a large provider organization in Omaha. Then it was called Allegiant Health. It's now CHI. And we were really called upon to identify and leverage evidence-based solutions to help Allegiant better manage their workforce. They were actually trying to build a brand new hospital and were struggling to figure out how they could staff the hospital effectively. We have the opportunity today, so fast forward 20 years, we serve over 300 facilities across the country who have access to both the combination of our strategies and technology tools. And I'll go over those a little bit. First one is really predictive analytics, and that helps our clients forecast patient volumes. Or it could be other types of volumes that may be patient independent, like OR minutes, as an example. We also have advanced workforce analytics, and that helps our clients identify the right numbers and mix of staff to handle those volumes. So essentially, how many nurses do you need to serve the patients that are going to be in the beds? We also obviously have a proprietary scheduling solution that we developed in-house that can automate best practices that we've identified. We do a series of consulting, both on a centralized resource management concept as well as float pool. So again, going back to our roots and how we started within Allegiant, the float pool concept is one that's really getting quite a bit of a trend throughout the country, and it's identifying the number of resources that can be applied across multiple departments or across multiple hospitals, so giving them greater flexibility in their resources.
Okay. Now, our audience is small business leaders, 59% of whom are presidents and or owners. What are some of the things that you've learned that you could perhaps pass on to this audience?
I think the big thing, and I bet most of the small business owners would agree, the biggest component to any successful business is having a clear vision and being able to align your teams against that vision and just having a well-rounded workforce and a talented workforce, actually, and an engaged workforce.
That's good advice. But we talk about this multi-generational workforce. What are some of the trends that you're seeing? And we'll ask that question, then we'll talk about automation.
Okay. I think that's a great question. And I would imagine that a lot of your listeners are trying to figure out how they can serve the different constituents, if you will, that serve their organization. So some of the things that we see are making sure that our teams have access to the most updated technology. It sounds funny, but we have a team of developers who prefer to work on Macs. And so that could be a simple lever that we have to pull to make sure that they have the tools that they need to be successful. The other thing that we do is really flexibility around scheduling. So as long as we are here to serve our clients, we don't really care if they come in at 10 o'clock or they come in at 5 o'clock in the morning. As long as they know what their objectives are and they meet those objectives, we're really flexible with their schedule and making sure that they have time away if they need to meet personal commitments. But it's really flexibility. So it's kind of those two things that we're seeing with the newer workforce coming in is making sure they have access to the newest technology. It probably sounds like a small thing. But then the second thing is really flexibility. And they are really attuned to having that work-life balance.
Well, I'll follow up on that question and go in a different direction before we get off the topic. A lot of states are instituting laws mandating parent leave, mandating full payment for minimum holidays. All of these mandates seem to work against the flexibility small business needs. What do you say to small business leaders who ask questions about that?
I think it all depends on their approach to those mandates. We're all wanting to attract the best talent, and we'll have to be really creative in terms of how we compete. And I think if you get the right individuals, that it will essentially accelerate productivity. It doesn't mean that they have to lower the expectations of their staff members, but I think there really is a nice balance between flexibility and offering some of the extended benefits. It really goes a long way, and it pays for itself in terms of the loyalty of that employee, the longevity and the productivity of that team member. So I think they have to look at it more in the long term than just in the moment short term, because they could easily lose that employee to another company that offers those benefits, and they'll be starting anew with orientation of a brand new associate.
Well, that's true. My sister-in-law had cancer, and she battled it for almost 7 years with a company with 55 employees. And they bent out over backwards to enable her to keep working at the job, which is one of the reasons she could survive as long as she did. But in bigger companies, they say go out on disability or in some cases get fired. And there's just a story today, a 64-year-old woman was fired from her company because she had knee replacement, and when she went back to work, the guy said the job wasn't there, her boss. do you think small businesses can use the ability to be flexible versus a big company, or because a big company has to think in terms of exception for one leads to exception for all?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think that with Avantas being a small company, within Omaha, we want to make sure that we offer flexibility. But I think the key is, with that flexibility, we still are asking that team member to produce the same. But I do think that, again, it all depends on that individual company if they're willing to compete for the right resources. But I also understand for those smaller businesses, it can also be a burden if they have a workforce that they have to offer benefits or short-term disability, and they might be left with a short-term vacancy. So it really is. I mean, I do acknowledge that there's a balance there, but I also believe that it can pay for itself in the long term. I really do.
Well, it's an interesting problem. Let me go on. We're seeing much ado about this women's movement and the CEOs being knocked off one by one. Do you think that this is going to be a permanent change in the interaction between men and women and power and not and I really think it's an issue of power rather than of sexes. But what do you think?
I think it's been an interesting movement. I mean, I think growing up, it wasn't a gender race. It was always about respecting one another, and in the professional setting that you had the utmost respect for one another to get the job done. And seeing what's happened over the last year or so, it's really been both enlightening and disheartening. But I also think the transparency has been very good. I think that you have some leaders in power that may legitimately have misused their position. But I think we also have to acknowledge there are a lot of great leaders out there who still uphold very ethical values and are very respectful. And so I think this awareness is a good thing, and I think that it will continue to change how we do business and how we strengthen our values within our individual companies and with our relationships with one another. So you never like these movements to come out of something so horrible. But I think it's an important one, and hopefully that we can move forward and evolve from this.
Well, let me move on to another subject, which is what do we need to do to educate our young people to take the jobs of the future?
I think you've said it. I think it's education. I think it's exposure. I think it's having perspective. One of the things that I see lacking today is a lack of perspective. I think our young people are seeing one view of the world through their social media, which may not give them a very realistic view of what happens in the workplace. So I think it's making sure that we use the technology that we have at our disposal through the different media outlets, the different social outlets, and really educate them on the perspective and what they can achieve and what they can go after and what the trends are. So I think it really is baked into your initial question. It's about education.
That's a good answer. I had to bring my computer to the Microsoft store. I've had some real problems with my systems. and today, and I noticed there were amongst the workers four young black kids working, and for the last 3 days I've been working on getting my computers back because we were under attack. And I noticed in the Micro Center store there were also young blacks. And I started talking to one of the young ladies that was working on my computer, and she said, because I've learned IT, I now have a vast area open to me. Do you think that this technology, if we teach young blacks, young people in general, but young blacks, that we can open more advancement opportunities?
Oh, I think that you've said, and as we've looked even 20 years back, just the advancements of technology, and even if I look at just my small area of the country, the demand for talent, technology talent, is so great, and there's such a demand for it. I don't really care about what their race, color, or creed or religion is. I think that there is a huge opportunity if young people have the opportunity to pursue that career, and they both have the passion and aptitude to do so. There is so much opportunity to grab.
What amazes me is when these young kids, 3, 4, and 5, they're out there and playing with the computers. When you see them at a restaurant or something. And I don't know. Well, I know every time I sit at a computer, I still have to kind of rearrange my thinking. Yet these kids seem to take to it like a duck to water. I guess it's a sign of the times. But what do you think is the role of older people in people that don't want to retire at 65 or can't retire at 65? Is there a role for them in this changing world?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. When I look at just the industry that we're in nursing and particularly in healthcare, some of the trends that we're seeing with what we would in years past called the retiring workforce, those clinicians have the opportunity really to participate in a number of roles, though through a scaled back schedule. So I think even in the industry that we serve, businesses are getting really creative in how they leverage the talent of the older workforce, because you're seeing that there's such a gap between, it's that brain drain. We've got talent that's leaving due to an aging population, particularly in nursing, where the younger generation, we're not seeing as many of those individuals entering the nursing workforce. So I think, yeah, absolutely. If businesses are willing to be creative, there's an opportunity to leverage the talent of those individuals.
Well, for 8 years, there was a lack of demand for labor, and now there's an almost overwhelming demand for labor. And small businesses often had their choice to pick and choose. Now they don't. What do you say to a small business owner that's looking that he or she must add people? What are the best ways of doing that in today's world?
With applicants, it seems like they really have the pick. And so small businesses need to be creative in the culture that they're establishing. Are they setting an inviting culture where someone new coming in feels like they're part of the family, like they believe that there's an opportunity to grow, that they can help expand professionally, that they could learn something from their peers and mentors within that organization? So I think culture is hugely important. Benefits and it doesn't always have to be monetary benefits. We have a relaxed dress code on Fridays. One of our sister companies has a relaxed dress code throughout the week. That really is a big draw that we're seeing. So I think there's some creative ways to attract talent that doesn't always cost dollars.
You're very true. This it's a catchword which you use, which is perceived opportunity. But yet, do people really make the main choice on that? Is it stability, price? I've heard that all my life about perceived opportunity. Yet some people seem to stay at jobs for the stability, for the pay, for the familiarity. Am I?
Yeah, I think it depends on the individual and where they're at in their career. So we're seeing with the newer workforce entering the market, it's what's in it for me? What can I do next? Where's my next promotion? How can I advance? And that hasn't always been the case. Even when I was going through kind of climbing the ladder, if you will, loyalty was more important. It was, I want to make sure I stay with this job and I'm loyal. I want to earn my stripes. It's just a slightly different mentality. So I think businesses, even small businesses, have to learn to serve each of those populations of people.
That's a very sound thought. In a few minutes we have left, some people are afraid that robots and robotic applications will somehow replace most of the workers. What do you think about that?
I think what it will do is it will allow our workforce to focus their energy on the higher end functions. So I'll give you an example. Even within the work that we do under Avantas, we're trying to automate many of the functions that could be done through machine learning or artificial intelligence. Or, fast forward to the hospital, some people are saying, oh my gosh, robots will take over the position of nurses. But there is an element that requires a higher level of, there's the human element and the higher level of learning that we're saying, gosh, if we can automate this, then we can use our workforce much differently than we have. So I don't think I would agree that robotics might replace certain aspects of what we're doing today, but I also think that it's a huge opportunity for us to leverage our skills more optimally.
That's a great answer. I hadn't thought about. For the last 3 days, I've been dealing with Microsoft, and it seems every time I turn around, I was greeted by a machine answering my questions.
Yeah.
And finally, when I asked for a live person, they said they'd get back to me in 2.5 hours. And I'm sitting there saying, in 2.5 hours I could be dead. You know what I mean?
I do.
It was just one of those things you just can't explain. You know what I miss? Good old-fashioned telephone operator and then someone who answered the phone for an organization. Oftentimes, they're the people that really could help you, but they no longer exist. And you know what I mean? So we have your website again and how people can reach you.
The website is www.avantas.com. And they can reach us via telephone, where they'll get a live person at 888-338-6148.
Well, we're talking with Jackie Larson. She's given us terrific insights into staffing and predictive analysis and workforce automation. I think that and a lot of other topics. Jackie, if you had one more piece of advice for a small business leader, what would it be?
I think the biggest thing is be creative and leverage your network. There's so many small businesses doing really cool and creative things, and you're not alone. And so more than likely there's someone down the street that's facing the same problems that you are and same challenges that if you team up, you could solve some problems in a really creative way.
Well, that's great advice. We're talking with Avantas' Jackie Larson. A link to her website will be on recalculating.biz tonight, where you can hear this and every other past and future program, and also tell us via survey who'd you like to hear on this program. Jackie, thank you so much for being with us.
All right. I appreciate your time, Don. Good talking with you.
No, we appreciate your time. It was really illuminating. Thank you so much.
All right. You take care.
Dan Perkins here from Recalculating.biz with your featured book. I want to tell you about a recent interview I had with Bob Bethel, a turnaround specialist with lots of success in small business. Bob's new book is Strengthen Your Business, Fail-Proof Strategies for Small Business. He tells us of his life successes and failures that have made him and his clients so successful. Over the years, Bob has brought 77 companies back from the brink and changed them into thriving, profitable businesses. His energy is amazing, and at 74, he proves that you can still have a great deal to give others if you just try. His suggestions are easy to understand and very helpful. One insight struck me was that most companies do not have a plan. The old Chinese proverb says, if you don't know where you're going, then any road will take you there, is true today. Bob Bethel's book, Strengthen Your Business, can be found at Amazon.com or can be ordered at your local bookstore. This has been Dan Perkins with your Recalculating.biz featured book.
Marcus Lemonis, J.D. Powers, and John Scully, and 100 other presidents and experts contributed to Recalculating the book. Why did all these people agree to contribute to the book? I'm Don Mazzella, and I'm the editorial director of Small Business Digest. And for 20 years, we have been offering small business leaders information and data to increase profits. Recalculating the book was named the best small business book by the Independent Press Association. Whether you need help with marketing, staffing, finance, operations, technology, or many other subjects, they're all here in Recalculating the book. They're now available at Amazon at a reduced cost. We've also created the radio program Recalculating on Recalculating.biz.
Dan Perkins here from Recalculating.biz with your small business tip of the day. Do you audition new hires, especially for social media and other creative skill jobs? Actors audition for parts in plays, TV shows, movies, even commercials. If you're going to expand your social media footprint and you're thinking about hiring your own social media manager, then why not audition the applicant for the job? People can speak the lingo, but can they walk the walk? You have a right to see what they can do. When a graphic artist applies for a job, they bring in a portfolio of their work. So when you're auditioning your social media person, have them make a presentation of their success. So here's your Recalculating.biz tip of the day. Have the potential candidates for a social media job go to your website and have them make a presentation to you what they would change about your site and what the changes would do in terms of new customers and sales. A picture can be worth 1,000 words. This is Dan Perkins with your Recalculating.biz small business tip of the day.
Want to know more about health savings accounts for your company or yourself? Go to 2hsa.com and get a free employer's primer. Health savings accounts are a cost-effective way of offering health care benefits to your employees and yourself. HSAs build retirement funds for your employees, improve morale, and reduce your health care benefit cost. For a free employer guide to HSAs, go to 2hsa.com. That's 2hsa.com.
Welcome back to Recalculating, the program dedicated to American small business, as they discuss things that are happening now that are affecting your business success.
My co-host, Dan Perkins, is on assignment, but we're lucky today to have Jennifer Turnage here to talk about her wonderful new book, and I love the title, Honey, You Got This. Jennifer, welcome to Recalculating Radio.
Thank you so much.
Well, first, Jennifer, as we ask all our guests, tell us a little bit about yourself personally before we get into anything else.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I am a North Carolina native, have spent most of my life in the state, and began my career with PricewaterhouseCoopers. So I started out as an auditor, working with a lot of software companies, and then jumped ship after about 10 years to go be the CFO of a startup software company. And that led to about a 15-year career as a CFO of software companies. And a lot of my role was really coming in early stage to a company, helping the company grow, raise capital, sell the company, and then start it all over again. So I did that for many years and was blessed to work with a lot of wonderful entrepreneurs and investors. And then finally, about 2 years ago, I decided to leave my last corporate role and start my own business. And that is what led to the creation of my current company, which is called BeeHyve, and that is spelled MYBEEHYVE, and the publication of Honey, You Got This.
Well, before we go further, what does your company do?
So my BeeHyve is a software app, and it's for people who are solopreneurs or small business owners that are looking for a mobile-friendly way to easily manage their sales contacts and their follow-up so they can grow their business.
Okay, so what made you decide to write the book?
So my business partner is Megan Summerall, and we met working together over 10 years ago at a software company. So we found ourselves as two women who came from the technology industry who were now in entrepreneurial roles and working with other women entrepreneurs. And so we often got a lot of questions of people asking us for our advice about technology. And we started doing a Tech Tip Tuesday on social media where we would share ideas, we would answer people's questions, and we were never able to cover everything that we wanted to cover. And that's really where the idea for the book came from, is we wanted to take all of these ideas that we had that we really wanted to share with other entrepreneurs and capture them in one place so we could get that news out to as many people as possible. And really through the book, we're really helping solopreneurs and small business owners learn about technology that can either save them time or save money in their business. In other words, help them be more profitable, but then also instilling the confidence to go out and implement these tools and these ideas.
Well, it's particularly apt today for me because I've spent the last 3 days literally trying to get my company up and running again. Microsoft, in its infinite wisdom, updated our systems, and the process blew the whole thing. So we were literally down 3 days. So, and what I had to go through, and I know just enough IT to be dangerous, but let's start at the very beginning. What are some of the basic things you tell that people in your book? Honey, you got this.
Well, we start off by just thinking about what is your office environment. And these days that can mean anything. That could mean maybe you just work out of a chair in the corner of your living room. Maybe you work at your dining room table. Maybe you have a home office. Maybe you're even using co-working space. But whatever arrangement you have is how do you set up this space so that when you sit down to work, you easily shift into your work mindset and you have every single thing that you need right there at your fingertips. So that could be things like a laptop or a tablet. Maybe you're working entirely from your mobile phone. But what do you need with that? Do you need to be able to do video calls? Do you need a headset? How are you going to stay organized as you're moving around? Do you need a paper calendar or do you want an online calendar? And what are the things that you need to keep with you? We have some ideas for what we call an office in a bag, which is when you're going to be working on the go, do you have a bag that you can just grab that has everything you need? So again, you're saving time, you're being more efficient. Then we move into some areas that are a little more specific to sales, because really anyone who is a solopreneur or a small business owner is involved in sales. You're running that side of the business. And so how do you manage your list of prospects? How do you remember to follow up? How do you know when to follow up? And what does that daily list look like for you? So we talk about ways to be organized in terms of your contacts and your email. And then really reflecting where we see a lot of interest in business today, we would get a lot of questions about social media platforms. And we're very quick to say we are not social media experts. There are some great experts out there. But we offer an overview of what are the different social media platforms, what are kind of the pros and cons of each, to help entrepreneurs identify maybe the right channel where they should start, and then give them tips for how to find those experts to follow. Once people are involved in social media, they also want to share information. So we give tips and tools and a lot of free resources for how you can collaborate and share information, manage events, and then given my background as a CFO and also the importance of really understanding the numbers behind your business, we do talk a little bit about business finances, what you need to know about the numbers in your business. And then we really wrap up by just instilling and coming back to that sense of confidence that, yes, you can make these decisions, you can implement this technology and make your life a whole lot easier so that you can grow your business in a much more joyful way.
Well, let's stop there, Jennifer. We're talking with Jennifer Turnage. She has a wonderful new book out called "Honey, You Got This." Before we go any further, how did you come up with this title and why?
The title really just came to me, and part of it comes from the name of our company and our app, My BeeHyve. So we do a lot of plays on the words around bees and honey. But then also, I'll say that being from North Carolina, honey is also what we call other people. And, well, again, we really wanted to just instill a sense of confidence in people. And, again, honey, you got this. You can do this. Do not be afraid to use technology in your business.
Well, that's an interesting point. We've had people on this program who have said that technology today enables you to literally launch a company on a laptop, and that 80 to 90% of what you have to manage inside a company can now be done with various apps and programs. Do you subscribe to that?
Well, absolutely. And it was something that we really learned through the community of people that developed around our product. Personally, I use both a mobile phone and a laptop. I think I like the screen size on a laptop. But I've learned how many people run their entire business completely from their mobile phone. And we knew when we started working in this area that mobile use was important. But even I was surprised by how important it really was. At this point, I think over 50% of the usage of our system is from a mobile device. People are running their business from their mobile phone. And I don't think that's going to change. I think that's going to continue to get even higher in concentration.
Well, let's go sideways, if I may, because you brought up a subject that's dear to my heart, which is follow-up. To me, I judge people by how well they do the follow-up, because that tells me they're thorough and know what they're doing. But a lot of people don't, and I always use as an example. If you give out 100 cards at a show, you're lucky if 3 people will call you back. What do you say to that, and how do you manage follow-up?
I completely agree with you. When it comes down to growing your business, growing your customer base, it's a numbers game. The more people you talk to, the more your business is going to grow. But then also, it's rare to close an opportunity on the first discussion. It can take, I hear numbers anywhere from like 7 to 10 discussions to actually convert a prospect to a customer. Well, if you forget to follow up after that third conversation, all you've done is warmed up that prospect for someone else, or they totally fall through the cracks. And when people are trying to remember all of the things that they need to do, it gets harder and harder. When you write it down on a scrap of paper, then you lose your scrap of paper, or you grab the business card and you forget to do anything with it, then yes, all that effort that you made to meet that person just evaporates. So what we have found is the best solution, and what we structure our systems and our ideas about is that the time to do that is when you actually have the conversation. So when you are taking down your meeting notes, hopefully you're doing that even if it's after the conversation. You're capturing that in electronic form that allows you to schedule your next follow-up and add a note as to what the conversation or what that next step needs to be, so that when you get to that day, you look in your to-do list within my BeeHyve, and it tells you, okay, here's who I need to contact today, here's my note about that conversation, and then be able to click on it and look at the history of your past conversation. Because I don't know, if you're like me, I can forget a conversation I had last week. I need all the help that I can, just refreshing my memory so I can pick up that conversation right where we left off. And to do that, you just need a very simple, easy-to-use system that's right at your fingertips that you will actually use every single day.
Well, do you develop it, or do you recommend a system?
So I am the co-founder of my BeeHyve. So we designed the system, and we have a development team that is a great resource behind us. So we also recommend it, but I will admit that I am biased.
And your website again for people while we're talking?
It is www.mybeehive.com, and that's spelled MYBEEHYVE. And you can also find us in the Apple or the Google App Stores as well.
Oh, all right. Well, your experience. Let's move forward. I mean, we're concentrating on technology, but let me ask you a different question. Women today are starting businesses more and more. Depending on who you talk to, it's now 50-50, and we're certainly approaching 50-50. Are there differences that you notice with women entrepreneurs than with men that you'd like to share?
I think women entrepreneurs have some characteristics that are different from male entrepreneurs, and some of it just relates to personality differences. I think women entrepreneurs tend to be very collaborative, maybe less into, say, strict structures, strict processes, more intuitive in some ways. I think women are also, by nature, multitaskers, and so many women are starting businesses while also raising their children. They might be starting their business as a side gig while they're working a full-time job, they might be starting it as something to kind of ease into a retirement lifestyle. So I think women are also really kind of thinking about how to build a business around their life. And so those businesses may take non-traditional forms.
Keep going. You're really doing a terrific job. I agree wholeheartedly with you. But let's turn it around. What have you noticed about men? Is there an age question now? Are older people? I saw a study recently that said men tend to start new businesses at an older age than women. Are you seeing anything like that in your work?
That's a good question. I would definitely say I see a lot more younger women starting businesses. People starting businesses while they're still in college, even. Starting businesses maybe when they're raising a young family. So in some ways, I think depending on the roles and various relationships and various family dynamics, sometimes there is the traditional, more of a corporate route that may be perceived to have more security, more benefits, may be beneficial during a certain time of life, and there may be more flexibility later in life. So I'm definitely seeing, but I definitely see more people of all ages starting their own businesses, and I think partly it is to have some freedom, partly it is to have more financial independence. Realizing that kind of the days of getting a corporate job right out of college and staying there through retirement it's almost unheard of these days. And as people go through layoffs and go through downsizings and job loss, then I think it creates this sense of urgency to have more control over your personal finances, and that can often lead people to consider entrepreneurship.
Good thoughts. Well, let's get back to your book, and let's get some more thoughts. You started with some thoughts. What are other aspects of the book that you can share with our small business audience?
Well, we tried to keep the book very easy to read, very simple to read. That's one of my personal philosophies is let's keep things as simple as possible to be successful. So it's about a 2-hour read, and we've structured it so that you can pick a chapter that is maybe of interest to you right now, and you don't have to read the whole book. Each chapter is kind of self-contained and starts with usually a quote or a story. Then we go through various best practices and then end each chapter with kind of a summary of the key points from the chapter and then a call to action where you can go through and kind of answer questions about your business to then determine what are your next steps. So you can very quickly go through the book and really scan the takeaways in each chapter to see what strikes a chord with you and then dig into those areas, focus on them, master them, implement your ideas, and then move on to the next point. So in some ways it's a reference manual that can be used throughout the life cycle of getting your business set up, growing your business, and then just when you want to reflect on your business. So you don't have to be at any certain stage.
I'm sorry, I spoke over your lines. Repeat your last thing. Make sure that I don't push over your lines.
Oh, absolutely. I think that really the book can be used at any stage of your business, whether you are just starting, whether you're established, whether you're growing and looking for new ideas. It's available at any point in that life cycle.
Okay, well let's take a chapter. Anyone you want. Let's talk about staffing, which is always an interesting one. Do you have a chapter on staffing?
We do not have a chapter on staffing. We really thought of this more in terms of people who are solopreneurs, but maybe they have a team. So we have talked a fair amount about how do you communicate with other people. And so that could really apply to your customers, your team members, or prospective hires, and even service providers. I think a lot of us, even if we don't have employees, we may be using service providers in that role. And so thinking about, well, how do you share information there? And one of our favorite ways to share information is Google Drive. And Google Drive is free. So Google Drive is an online website where you can store any of your files. You can. It's almost like a filing cabinet in the sky. So you can put your files on Google Drive for free. If you have a Gmail account, you already have access to Google Drive. If not, you can create one. And you can place your files there and share them with groups of people. Individuals, you can share folders, you can share files, whatever you want to share can all be put online and shared very easily with people.
Communication is always a hot topic. I was brought up in the IBM school where if you had to say something bad, you sandwich it between two good things. My question is, how do you share bad news with people, whether it's a client, whether it's an employee, or whether it's... what are some of the things that you think you can do?
Yeah, I think that the very first thing is that if you're delivering bad news, don't let it fester. Be direct about it. Have the conversation. Have clear next steps that come from it if that's appropriate. But personally, I think the more difficult the conversation, the more important it is to be done in person. If you can't make it in person, then maybe a video call, phone as a last resort. But I always advise people never use email, certainly not text, to deliver bad news.
Good advice. We're talking here with Jennifer Turnage. She has a great new book out. Honey, you got this. I just love the title. I can talk about that all day. But we have 2 or 3 minutes left. In your travels and experience, what are the 3 things? I say 3. It could be 4. It could be 2. Are the 3 things that you think are important for a small business leader to be successful?
I think that to be successful with your small business and be successful as an entrepreneur, you have to be focused and you have to execute. Don't get caught up in thinking about your business and talking about your business. You need to go execute on your business. Get out there and do it. Don't wait until you think everything is perfect, because it never will be. Just get out there and do it and learn and refine as you go. One of my other philosophies that I try to apply in everything that I do is that it comes back to the idea, I think I mentioned earlier, about simplicity. But when you're first helping other people be successful, that's how we then become successful. So whether it's solving a problem for someone else, making something easier for them, I think when you start with a place of service, then you are more likely to be on the path to success. And part of that, again, though, when you're making things simple, that's actually not easy. That's where the magic happens. So when you can have a service or solution mindset in your business, think about ways to leverage and integrate technology, and then really differentiate yourself with design, then you can help other people be successful, and therefore you will achieve success.
Boy, that's really great advice. We're talking with Jennifer Turnage. Jennifer, your website again for people and how they can reach you?
You can reach us at www.mybeehive.com. That's MYBEEHYBE. Or you can find us in the Apple or the Google App Store. And our book, Honey, You Got This, is available on Amazon.com.
Jennifer, it's really been an enjoyable time together. Thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you. This has been a wonderful conversation.
Tell me, Dan, tell me about your latest book.
My current book that's coming out, I should say, is Why Can't Grammy Remember Me? And it's really the first book written for children between the ages of 9 and 12 and their families dealing with dementia. Dementia is a growing problem with the elderly in the United States and around the world. And we are not very well informed about what's going on, what's happening. So I wrote this book in the form of a mystery. And I have two little girls, 9 and 12, who have a magical power to seem to be able to find things that are lost. And so they go to their dads and moms and they say, we work all over the neighborhood helping people find things, and we seem to find things. And their dad says, yes, you have a magical talent to do that. And they said, we'd like to start a business to see if we can help other people. So they decided to start a business. The two girls' names are Hudson and Charlotte. And they start H&C's Lost and Found. If you've lost it, we find it. And so they build a business, and they convince the dads to build them an office and a treehouse in the backyard. And they get busy making posters and flyers trying to get customers. And their dads take them downtown, and they put them in the windows and on the telephone poles and light poles. And they go home, and first week goes by, and nobody comes. And the second week and third week, and nobody comes. They're really, really dejected. And the fourth week comes, and there's a knock at the door. And they walk over and open the door, and there's a young man standing there with one of their flyers in his hands. And he says to them, my dad says the reason why my Grammy can't remember me is because she's lost her memory. And your flyer says you find things that are lost. Can you find my Grammy's memory? Well, they don't know anything about memory. So they take his name and they go see their dads to see what can happen. And the story evolves into how they learn about what dementia is and what's going on in the body when somebody has dementia. And then they decide, while they can't find their customer's memory, they can help him build the tools to retain her in his memory. And so at the end of the book, there are about 10 to 12, 13 things that families can do together to work on to preserve the memory of Grandma and Grandpa so the generations can know who these people were. And that's the story.
What a great book. When will it be available, and how can people get it?
Well, it'll be available on Amazon.com. A lot of people who have read it, who've had moms and dads that have been stricken with Alzheimer's or dementia, tell me that they really now begin to understand what's happening in Grandma's brain. And we took a different approach. Rather than do the typical brain cross-section, I work with the artist, and we design highways in the brain. And there's a brain of one of the little girls and the brain of Grammy. They both have highways, roads, but the girl's brain, everything is green and go. Grammy's brain is full of no left turns, do not enter, stop, no right turns. So all of the messages that need to come from our brain get screwed up, and we can't function. Great illustrations, though. Wonderful illustrations.
Well, say goodbye, Dan.
All right.
Time for us to go.
Thank you for joining us. And by the way, if you didn't hear all of today's show, you can go to recalculating.biz, and you can pick up this show and past shows to expand your knowledge as becoming more successful entrepreneurs. Thank you for joining us, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you for joining us on Recalculating. We hope the information you received on today's episode was helpful to you in starting and growing your business. Please go to our website, recalculating.biz, to contact us, to listen to past shows, and see special offers. Until next time, remember, if you grow, we grow. Join us next week for more helpful ideas to make your business a great success. Recalculating, a program designed to help you be successful.